Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. Miss Liz in the house. That's right, Miss Liz is here, and today we're going to be talking about pet grief. That's right. We have Reverend Kaleel in the house, and we're going to talk about how we grieve our animals. So for all of the listeners out there, I want to remind you all that this is a live tea time show, and if you'd like to send in your comments, support, love, all that good stuff, you can during the broadcast. If you'd like to catch the replays, you can catch them all on Miss Liz's YouTube channel. So we're going to get you guys over there to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those good platforms. But before we get started, you know how Miss Liz rolls. We do the disclaimer, and then we do a beautiful intro, and then we get Reverend Kaleel in here, and we have his tea. And today's tea is not a beverage. We are serving love, grief, emotions, meaning of our pain. That is the tea that we are serving. So disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may include and cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or content of the discussion, you are freely welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit Linktree Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in a comment on or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your decision and wishes and welcome you back whenever you're ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. And let me give you a little bit about my guests. Well, today we gather in a tender space of love, loss, and healing. Joining us is a remarkable heart leader, Reverend Kaleel Sakakeeny. Reverend Kaleel is an animal chaplain, grief minister, and powerful advocate for the bond between humans and their beloved animal companions. He walks with families in their deepest heartbreak, offering compassion and ceremony when words feel too small. His work reminds us that the love we share with our animals is sacred, and the grief that follows is real, worthy, and deserving of honor. This afternoon, we explore the truth that love never leaves us. It simply shifts forms and stays forever in the heart. Let your hearts open, let your tears be welcome, and let's healing meet you at the table. Let me get Reverend Kaleel in here and let's spill some tea together.
Hi.
Welcome, Reverend Kaleel.
It's Kaleel, but that's okay. I know how it is. It's fine. Good to be here.
It is nice to have you here. And I am so honored to have you here to have this topic with animal grief, because there are so many people out there, including myself and my children, who have lost a couple of animals. I encourage my daughter to check out this tea time today as well, so she can hear some wisdom from you as well. So I'm going to start with some questions that came in for you, and we'll get that out there and some information and all that good stuff that you do. So, Reverend, what first inspired you to your journey to become an animal chaplain and grief counselor for those mourning their animal
Right.
companions?
It was a long journey, certainly a relatively recent journey also. Um, I spent my life as a theater director, as a journalist covering the Middle East and other places for NPR. I was a professional life coach, and life was good. Everything was working fine. I had lots of pets whom I adored, and we love all our animals, but some animals are just bigger loves than others. And there was one very big black cat. His name was Cairo, and he was the world to me. It really, really mirrored my soul, mirrored my life, and he was precious. And when he died, I kind of went off the rails. I probably drank too much. I wandered the streets. I was beside myself and surprisingly lost. So I did the normal thing. I went to a couple of therapists to see how they could ease the pain, relieve the grief, only to find out that they wanted to prescribe a pill or medication or treat this as a mental health issue. And it wasn't a mental health issue. It was more of a spiritual issue. And there is no pill for sadness. There's no pill for a broken heart. There is one for depression, but grief cannot be medicated because there's nothing wrong with us. So that realization was powerful. And I said, well, if I'm just realizing this now, there must be other people out there who have lost an animal companion and need this kind of special attention and compassion. So I became an animal chaplain, became certified as an advanced grief counselor. Was losses for the loss of a job, loss of health, loss of friendship, loss of love, loss of pet, and started Animal Talks as a nonprofit organization during COVID, when the idea of grief was foreign to us, because we have a grief illiterate and a grief avoidant society. And gradually, when we saw that about people that die, grief became an okay subject to deal with. We had repressed it, now we came to the forefront. And that's how Animal Talk started. And we've been very busy, thankfully, and not thankfully, who wants to be busy in this work? We are helping as much as we possibly can. And that's it in a nutshell.
So, how did you get the name Animal Talks?
How did I get to name it? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was asking myself the same question maybe a week or so ago. Where did the name Animal Talks come from? And I simply don't know. Certain things occur to us, either in a sleep state or a waking state or walking, or somehow it captured the sense of talking with animals, not just in their present form, but in all the forms that they take. And that's the best answer I can give you, because to this day, I don't know how we found the name or how the name found us, actually.
Spiritual finding, right?
I think so. I'm happy to say that. Yes. A guided gesture from somewhere.
Do you think it came from the cat that changed your life?
She is responsible for this totally. It's absolutely so. You don't see the direct line, but if you stop and think about it, yes, he died. I was lost. I found myself. And without his passing and without the love I had, even through and beyond his passing, I would not be doing what I'm doing. So yes, it's a clear line to me. Maybe not so direct. There are twists and turns, but he is very much the voice and the spirit of the work that we're doing, as are all the animals that have passed and talked to us and guide us in whatever we're doing.
Well, it kind of goes with Animal Talk, right? The lost and found. We
Yeah.
We have to lose ourselves in order to find ourselves, right? And that's what grief is all about, right? Is we lose ourselves, we lose that part of our life, but then we find that we have to learn to live in a new way.
Yes, good point. I think you're right. I think the difference between, not to be pedantic, reconciliation and resolution. A lot of people talk about you're going to reconcile yourself to the death of the beloved, or it's time to move on. And we say, or it's time to find closure. And we say, who wants to find closure about some being, person, animal that you loved? And we don't want to resolve it. We want to reconcile it. We want to be able to bring together, to integrate the pain of the loss with the hope and the promise that love will take us someplace very special.
And Reverend, how can we honor our pets? Through celebration, through memorial, through candles? How can we remember our pets?
Well, you honor them every day by who you are and how you behave. Like, again, when I see people walking their dogs, for instance, and I see them on the phone and pulling the dog, or it's the dog's walk. It's not your walk. It's the dog's walk. Get off the phone. Pay attention to the dog. See where he or she wants to go. That's one way of honoring their independence and their sense of personhood. Secondly, of course, honoring by, my personal opinion, becoming a vegan or a vegetarian. We're not eating the animals or loving one and eating the other. But this is my spiritual point of view. Now you're referring specifically, I think, to an animal that's passed. And I think in that case, the honoring, if it was established during life together, it will continue after the passing. And there are many ways of doing that. Some people, I planted a tree, for example, in honor of my cat. Other people will plant flowers or create a little marker or create a little shrine in the house where there are pictures and maybe the ashes. So celebrating the life of our pets that passed is critical, because we take grief, which is internal, and through ritual and ceremony, we externalize it. And that's an important step toward healing.
So, Reverend, prayer, poetry, or quiet walks, what helps you process grief most?
Stillness.
Stillness.
Stillness. It's not attempting to say meditation, but meditation is too complex for me. It has too many ins and outs, and I don't understand it. For me, it's a stillness practice, which I work, because I'm also an animal communicator, by the way, and I don't do it especially well. My colleagues who graduated with me do it a lot better. But stillness is the way I get in touch, with the animals that talk, animal talks, or the spirit, or the personality. And that requires a combination of intuition and willingness. We have a lot of exercises that kind of help a person move toward that. But stillness, when I lower my gaze, quiet my body, quiet my mind, let the love envelop me. Don't try to achieve anything. Just be still, like a beautiful pool or pond. And the stiller you are, the stiller the water, the more deeply you can see into it. And that then becomes the ground of our relationship, or the basis of it.
I like that answer, because, meditation doesn't solve everything.
Oh,
And I'm like you, I find it complicated at times.
I'm glad to hear that.
I like the stillness because I like to reflect, right? Just take that moment to pause.
That's right.
And that's what death is, right? It's the pause of life. You're on that hold, right? And you mentioned something at the beginning where they said mental health. I've had that experience too, where the doctors have said, well, that's mental health. That's, let's just give you a pill for that. But grief is so complex and so full of dysfunction in function as well. There's a both ways. There's a cons and there's the pros of grief. Can you explain to us and my listeners out there what the emotion attached to the grief holds us back so long?
Say one more time. What is the emotion of grief, or?
Yeah, the emotions, because our griefs are part of our emotions, right? And why we hold on to our emotions so much when we lose something.
Yeah, grief is an emotion. Again, as I say, until COVID, it was really never talked about it, and all of a sudden, everywhere is the grief courses, grief classes, grief. It's amazing how we were like a voice of the wilderness years ago. But grief is to be technical, the mind and body's response to profound loss. Now, many of the people I work with will say, almost all of them say, in fact, I think I'm losing my mind. But you know what? They are losing their minds because there's more than one mind. We have multiple minds. I have a mind that's you and me right now at this moment. But because neurologically we live our lives with our animals, when to feed them, when to walk, who to allow in the house, how to walk, what kind of voice to adopt. So for 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, the mind has created a world around this relationship that you have with your animal companion. It knows everything. When the food is wrong, when the food is right, what guest should. Then the animal is passed. And the mind is saying, well, I've been doing everything right, but there's no reason to now. And it starts to turn in on itself, and the person feels they've lost their mind. And in effect, they've lost the mind that existed as a reality between them and their animal companion, their pet. So they're not crazy. They have lost their mind. And so that's a powerful experience. It's frightening.
I'm glad that we're having this deep conversation. And I'm like you. COVID came along, and then you've seen everything popping up, right? All these
Right.
conversations.
Absolutely.
Grief has been going on for centuries. Why are we just talking about it now? Loss of animals has been happening for centuries. Why are we just talking about it now? And, I find that the spiritual world finds me at the right time and brings me the guests that I need at the right time. My daughter lost 2 dogs within 6 months, and she's like, "Mom, what am I doing wrong?" And I'm just like, it was just their time to pass. It wasn't about doing anything wrong. It was just their time. Their journey was over. But how do we keep those journeys alive?
It's interesting you say that because I could never say, with all due respect, since we're talking personally and honestly, I could never say that to someone who comes to me. It was just their time. Because that doesn't ease the pain. It's true, and it's an absolute reality. And that's what's so critical about this is because the overriding emotion that people feel that seems most common is guilt. That I wait too long, that I did not act soon enough. Guilt that I'll let the veterinarian perform this operation. Guilt that I didn't let the veterinarian perform this operation. But guilt, in my experience, is really an attempt to control. The pain is so great that if we feel guilt, we can then say, I could have done something about it. If only the gate weren't open. If only I didn't go to the store to get a loaf of bread, I would have had the car collision. That's not true. You're right. It was the time. But usually there's guilt behind that. And the person trying to rationalize the pain. So blaming themselves is better than standing naked in front of the pain. Mm-hmm. So we have to work on the guilt to transition that from maybe guilt to regret. So it's a fascinatingly complex world and journey, as to use your term.
I like that, what you just said, standing naked in the pain.
That's exactly
why
right.
are we so scared of our pain? We all endure pain. We all endure a loss.
But look at our society. It's be happy, make money, succeed, party, football games, great. But you can't continue to deny the humanness of being human. And love is our natural property. It's our natural inclination. We need love the way we need water and air. And if you don't have that through a connection, either with people or nature or animal companions or whatever, or even your own spirit, then you have to bang the drum so loudly to block out the yelling and the screaming of the hurt. And it's a tin drum.
Yeah. We have a couple more questions that just popped in, and it says losing a pet can feel as painful as losing a family member. Why do you think society still struggles to validate the depth of grief?
Wow, there's an interesting question in the question. And not only can it feel more painful than the death of a family member, it is can feel more painful, not just as painful. So, can I comment on that first a little bit?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. No, all our human relationships are flawed, right? We have betrayal, we have anger, we have judgment, we have infidelity, we have criticism. So, all of our relationships to our beloved humans are complex. So, when someone dies close to us, a parent, a sibling, a friend, there's mixed feelings. You remember the arguments you had, the criticisms, the discussion. So that's kind of flawed. But when a dog or cat or fish or lizard or bird passes away, there was nothing complex about that relationship. There was no judgment, no infidelity, no betrayal, no judgment, no criticism, no negativity, no arguments. So when that kind of love is gone, we really feel we have lost the better part of ourselves.
Yeah.
That our animals are the angels of our better selves. And when they go, we're left with the terrible us that criticizes and judges and gets into fights. But when they're there, the better part of ourselves comes out. And who wants to lose the best part of themselves?
It's a completely different grief, right? And we don't talk about pet grief. We talk about loss of human, but we don't talk about animals as
Not easily. People who know.
yeah.
People who know. So to answer the second part of the question, why is what was her second part of the question? Why is grief what?
Uh,
Why
why do you think society still struggles to validate the death of
because
grief?
it's frightening.
Oh,
It's frightening to be vulnerable like that. To feel the heartbreak. Let's have another drink. Let's go shopping. Let's do something. Go to a club. Nobody wants to stand still and marinate in their grief or be totally involved in it as the only way to make peace with it. It hurts. It hurts. We don't want to be hurt.
it comes back to that stillness, right?
I think it does, which is another way of saying God or divine spirit or creative force. I'm sort of like to see stillness as encompassing all of that.
Yeah.
The stillness it's the quiet space, the interstices, the middle place between one action and the next. If you can get to that place, that stillness, then you understand both sides, all of it.
Yeah. Well, I want to go into the tea that you gave me, Reverend.
Okay.
And the tea that you gave me was understanding that love and grief, love and pain are conjured emotions. How do we make meaning of our loss, not to move on? Is the tea that you gave me.
Co-joined emotions. It's funny because Kubler-Ross had 5 different stages of death and dying. And they became, fixed in our minds as stages. David Kessler, who worked with her and whom I study with, created a 6th step, which is the one you just said, making meaning. And that really is a challenge to us because how do we now take the loss of the pain and make it meaningful? And people do that in different ways. Some volunteer, some go to shelters and work there, some become animal chaplains, some plant trees, some create nonprofits to help the unfortunate. But however you do it, taking the grief and letting it be a motivation to make meaning and to do good and to go forward as a better self is the best way, back to your first question, about honoring the life of our relationship with our pets.
I'm so glad that we're having this conversation,
I'm too.
because we need this conversation, real, raw, honest, open, stillness, just pause.
Right.
Grief is a pause. Usually
Oh,
when you're told that someone has just passed or an animal has just passed, you're still, that moment stands still.
that's exactly right. That's the funniest part because people will say, how is it that the world is still going on? They're shocked that the cars are still driving and people are still walking and going to work or whatever the case is. Airplanes are flying. For them, the world has stopped.
Absolutely.
And they're stunned that everything else is still happening. It's that powerful.
Right? Stillness is that powerful.
Yeah.
We need to bring stillness to the world.
Amen.
You know,
Yeah.
I am so glad that you were directed to me, because we need this open conversation, and
I'm glad for
need
it.
it for the listeners out there that are suffering in silence and feeling like they've lost their mind, because you have lost your mind.
That's right.
We have to put it out there, right? There's no stigma or shame on it. Loss is losing your mind, losing that part of your life. I want to talk about a course that you have coming on in February of next year. I want to talk about that course a little bit, because that's an
Yeah.
8-week course. Could you share a little bit about on that?
Thank you very much for asking that question. I really appreciate it. Last August or last spring, we decided that we were going to create, because we feel the world needs pet grief specialists and educators. Well, we thought that for quite a while, but we didn't do anything about it because we were just very busy establishing our organization and helping try to make it survive. And then we decided, let's give a class, an 8-week class. Now, we're lucky in that people come to our websites from pretty much all over the world, from the Philippines to Russia to the Ukraine to wherever. So, and then we decided, well, maybe if enough people are tapping into the website, maybe there'll be enough of them who want to study pet grief and become a pet grief specialist and become certified. So we gave the course, and it was spectacular. The 10 or 12 people, they were from Sweden, from the Philippines, from Hawaii, from all over the United States, bonded together in such a way that they shared the most vulnerable selves and joined each other to support their own work. It was a beautiful class. They formed their own Facebook alumni page. And so we decided to run a second class in February. We have 3 or 4 people already signed up. We only limited to 10 people, 10 to 12 people, because we feel that's important. But it's an important training because we combine training and intuition. How do you work with a client or a person? I hate the word client. How do you work with a pet parent who has lost their pet? What's the approach? How do you deal with their guilt? What do you say when they say life is not worth living? How do you become personal without personalizing? How do you listen and listen for certain things? So if a person says, my husband and I grieve differently about the death of Rex. Well, what is that difference? Can you talk to me about how that's different? Because knowing the different styles of grieving, say, is very important to healing. So the course covers a lot of this work and how we go from grief and pain to healing. And I welcome any of your followers, your listeners, your viewers to just go to the website and look at the curriculum and text me with any questions whatsoever.
And I'd like to get that information out there. I'd like to do a deep dive on all of my guests, because I'd like to find these courses and workshops that you have available. But you also have some ebooks on your website. If people would like to go to the website, could you just spell out the website for my audio listeners who are not seeing the video?
It's Animal Talks. That's plural. Animal Talks, one word, Inc.com. AnimalTalksInc.com. The first thing you'll see is a pop-up talking about the class that's coming in February. Then there is an audio recording by me just saying, I will hold you. Take my hand. let's walk this path as companions together. Then there are lots of videos, lots of resources. On the top, I think there's one of the tabs that says shop, and there are 3 ebooks there, one on animal communication, one on pet grief, and one on how nature really is a salve and a balm for us when we're in pain. So it really is, and I'm not trying to be immodest, but it really is an award-winning website with a lot of resources and the curriculum for the class. And I would love people to just visit it, just maybe to be touched by it. And if they want to take the class, that's great. If they want to just have a few questions to ask me, we're here really to talk about whatever their needs are.
Absolutely. And the name of those ebooks, I'm just going to shout them out for you, is The See Through Heart, Our Animals, A Journey Through Pet Loss and Grief. Those are all ebooks available on through your website as well.
I think they're $10, something like that, And then you just pay it on PayPal right there. And you can sign up for the course and pay it on PayPal. It's just all there. But I would like to hear from your people. I'd like to hear what they think about this program, this chat we're having, what questions they have. Sometimes they don't want to ask a question publicly, like I can't stop crying.
Yeah.
Or why doesn't my husband or my mom or my dad understand this? Well, why can't I talk about this to my friends? They don't want to say that publicly. So if they really want a little private chat for a few minutes, we're happy to do that.
Absolutely. And for all my listeners out there, please reach out. And we always love feedback from all these conversations. We try to get as deep and raw as we can. And we serve a real strong tea over here on Teatime. We have more questions for you, Reverend, and I'd like to get them out to you.
Okay.
One is, one lesson animal teaches us better than humans ever could.
What is one lesson?
Yeah.
Wow, to pick one lesson. I guess it would be to love. I mean, that's all I can say. We love people, of course, and we love our children, and we love our partners. And animals bring a heartbeat to a house, into a home. I would say the biggest gift they give us is increasing our capacity to love and to be patient and to be forgiving and to not judge. And wow, if you can hold on to those qualities, that's a gift that just keeps on giving. And that's what I think is the key relationship.
It's amazing what an animal can do, right?
Literally amazing. And that's why the death is so profound, because nobody else could do that. There isn't a single human being in my entire life who has given me the love, the courage, the loyalty, the kindness, the sweetness, the forgiving nature of one of my animals. It's always fraught with disagreements and tensions, and so that's a blessing, and that's the still space that we're talking about too. That moment when you are with your animal companion, again, a bird, a fish, a dog, cat, that thing that takes place between the two of you is both dynamic and deeply quiet and still.
Absolutely. Reverend, I want to talk to you about grief, the process of grief and burial, cremation. How do you feel about cremation for animals?
I don't have an opinion. I think more that's an individual. I don't want to prejudice anyone for or against it. That's a decision that you make. Most people do that because there are laws against burying a deceased animal on your property, and people don't want to think of that. So most of the time there is cremation, but that's an intensely personal decision, just the same way euthanasia is. And that's the worst part of it, because we never know what the right time is, and there is no right time. So I do advocate in-home euthanasia. whenever humanly possible. And there are some amazing people out there who do loving and thoughtful and gentle in-home euthanasias. Um, and then if you do choose cremation, which I think 90% of the people probably do, and you do get the ashes back, people say to me, well, I'm going to scatter the ashes in my dog's or my cat's favorite place. And I say, you know what? Don't scatter them all, because keep some back, because you will need them as a reminder and a remembrance of who he or she is, was, is, still is. So there are some complex issues around rituals, but they're critical. They're important. They bring friends into the celebration, pictures, singing, music. I have a shrine, like kind of a special place with cats' pictures, dogs' pictures, dog collar, water, food bowl. So when I just walk by it, I can just touch it and become still for a second or two or three and reunite for that moment with the aid of the photographs, the collar, the leash, whatever. And those are ways of remembering and keeping the love alive.
Reverend, I have a question for you. How do you feel about the statement replacing the loss?
I probably don't even understand what that means,
Like
because
replacing the loss of an animal. So you get another, like you lose a dog and you get another dog to replace it. I've heard many people who have lost animals say, well, I'm just replacing my loss.
wow. Well, if that were, God forbid, a child or a spouse or something, would you feel the same way? I mean, I just got to replace my husband or replace my wife or replace my partner, just go to the supermarket and go down the right aisle and pick someone off the shelf, I guess. Um, no, we are never replacing the loss. We're letting the loss move us, carry us in a particular direction. And if the person, first of all, I recommend not getting an animal soon after one has passed, because you will make comparisons, you'll be disappointed. Um, it may fulfill the loss, fill that emptiness, fill that hole briefly, but there will come a time when you will find yourself saying or thinking, well, Rover didn't do that, or why is she behaving differently than so-and-so did? And that will start to eat away and gnaw at you. So you can keep in mind the idea that I will, because I need to have another dog or cat or fish in my life. But I will wait, and I will be told by my animal companion that the time is right. He or she will say to me, I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. I will be with you always. I know you are always with me. I want you to be happy. Go, bring a brother, bring a sister back into the house. I will not consider it a betrayal. Don't replace me, please. Just take the love you gave me and the love I gave you and amplify it.
Thank you for answering that. The word replace for me, it breaks my heart.
It breaks mine too. It's a terrible term. I don't even know where it came from, but anyway, there it is. Yeah.
Reverend, we have a question about separation and divorce, where a lot of people lose an animal through this separation.
That's right.
Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Funny, I did a podcast about 6 months ago on exactly this. It was an estate podcast, a legal podcast. Animals are considered in most states to be property. The same way a toaster oven is, the same way a car is, the same way a piece of furniture is. So if there's not an amicable divorce, if there's a lot of bitterness or anger or something, it's a terrible situation, because the dog or the cat or the animal will go with whoever it legally owns the dog. So if I give you a present of an animal on Christmas or something, whatever the case may be, and that's your dog. It was given to you. and therefore you have the ownership right. Many couples work out a kind of split relationship with the dog, or the cat will stay a week here, a week there, but that doesn't usually work out. So the sad part is that it is property, the animal is property, it will go to who the legal owner is, however that's proven by a court. The good news is that many couples love their animals so much that they will arrange for kind of shared custody, but that's very, very difficult because there's no legal reason to say you can't move, for example, as there might be with a child. And one of the partners, one of the spouses may decide to move, and you can't say my visitation right because it's not a legal issue. It's an agreement between the two of you. So it's a tough one. There's no easy answer for it.
And it's a hard loss, right?
It's a hard loss.
Especially if the divorce is sloppy and messy and painful, right? A lot of using the animal as a pawn.
Exactly right. But also the animal was symbolic of a time when love was beautiful and great, when they were getting along and things were happy. And that animal then becomes a symbol of better times, and it gets torn between the two of them. Because who wants to give up not just the animal, but the good memories?
Well, Reverend, I want to talk about spiritual bond.
Okay.
Tell my listeners a little bit about spiritual bond, because you mentioned that a lot in your work.
Well, what does that mean? I mean, there are all kinds of bonds, right? There are ties and bonds. I'm not sure the difference is, but a spiritual bond, I guess, this is a good question. It puts me right in the spot, and that's good. That's good. It really forces me to really clarify my own thinking. I think the spiritual bond is something that passes between people, or people and animals, or maybe even animal and animal. Something, a state or condition or feeling that exists between the two, which is separate from and outside the world of noise, judgment, and criticism. You can feel it when it's like a peacefulness, or to use our word again, a stillness, where the connection can almost give you goose pimples, can almost bring a tear to your eye, because there's no other noise in it. There's no other necessity in it. It's a state of solid, pure connection. Doesn't always last long, but it always is something you come back to, and is the underpinning of your relationship. You know it when you feel it. It's that quiet moment when you're with your animal and he or she looks up at you and you look down, and it's neurological. It's not just spiritual, because animals, by virtue of their higher forehead and their eyes, have learned to ask questions. Scientists have shown us that the serotonin, or the neurological reaction to that kind of relationship with an animal, stimulates the same place as it does with an infant or a baby. And many people will always refer to them as my baby, my baby. And it is that because that bond, that connection, that relationship is not just physical, it exists in an entirely different plane, which is sacred. I'm going to use the word sacred, a sacred connection, a holy connection, a special, unique, one-of-a-kind connection that takes place outside the madding world and the noise. The best I can do right now.
No, and that's good. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. I love it. That's important.
Then can we talk about animal forgiveness?
For animals forgiving us, or us forgiving them?
Both. Let's do both.
Okay. It's funny because people say, one of the things they say about animals is they're in the moment. They're in the moment. They're always in the moment. But that's not true. Because my dog remembers things. Remembers where the muffins are. Or for 5 days from now, she'll come back in the house and remember where we put the cookies. So they don't just live in the present. They have memories. And if you're unkind to an animal, for example, then they remember that you're unkind, that you've hurt them. I don't think they hold it against you. I don't think it's a grudge. I think they feel that you hurt them. They feel a dismay, a shock, something akin to disappointment. Now, I understand these are human words, and I'm anthropomorphizing at this point. I know that. But I don't think they make a judgment. He's a bad person. He can't be trusted. I hate him for what he did. But they can be hurt and wounded and feel lost. But I don't think they make the judgment. So that, by its very nature, is a kind of forgiveness. As far as the human is concerned, I think we're forever forgiving our animals. You know, I mean, some people, because of the way they've been brought up, will hit an animal or squirt water at it or something. That's terrible. I mean, you can't, most of us just know the dog or the cat as being a dog or a cat. Of course, you have to make them good citizens and train them. But if they misbehave, you don't hate them. You don't yell at them. You don't hurt them. This is not right. This is not how we agreed to be together. Let's work on this together. This pooing or peeing in the rug or whatever, this barking. Let's do this together because we care for each other. So that's not quite forgiveness. It's kind of maybe absorbing, accepting, and continuing to go forward with that, as opposed to getting stuck in a judgment or fault finding.
And I think what you just said, teamwork, right? Let's work together.
Partnership. It's a definite partnership.
Like if you treat an animal wrongly, the animal's going to act wrongly. You know, if you treat it right, it's going to act right. It's just like human to human,
that's
you know, animal to animal. What message could you give to my listeners out there about animal rights and treatment towards animals?
Oh, animal rights. Well, you know, I don't want to start to proselytize. I have animal rights. Animals in some countries, like I think New Zealand and Australia and other places, there's a movement, maybe even this country to some extent, a movement toward personhood. Look, we've come a long way. It used to be, you know, the animals were, and even when I was growing up, you put the dog in a dog house, you put the cat out at night. Or the dog was used for defense purposes, plowing purposes, guard dog in the junkyard, whatever. Then gradually the animal moved its way into our house. And maybe it slept on the floor and then the cellar on the couch. Before you knew it, 25, 30 years, 40 at the most, the dog or cat was sleeping in our bed. And we were feeding them at the table and we were taking them on airplanes. Well, that's a huge evolution. That's just an incredible evolution. So now what? They have rights. But the question is, the rights that your pet has to be accepted as who he or she is should extend to animal farming. I have to say that. The idea of, I think John Lennon said, if slaughterhouses had walls, everybody would be a vegetarian or vegan. So the animal rights, if you have animal rights for your pet, your beloved animal companion, I think you're going to extend that to the horrific billions of animals being slaughtered for our dinners or in laboratories and being experimented upon uselessly because computers now can replicate the results of an experiment seamlessly. So if you're going to talk about animal rights relative to your particular animal companion, you're going to extend that to all the animals in the world who are suffering abuse and cruelty at the hands of both scientists and agri-farmers.
Well, thanks for getting, you know, and sharing that real raw information out there.
Yeah,
you know?
People don't want to hear it.
No, they don't. They don't want to hear the truth. And they say that all the
it.
time to me, Miss Liz, stop the truth. Well, I'm not stopping the truth.
Yeah,
The
they
truth
don't want to
hurts.
hear it.
The truth hurts, guys.
And
we need to hear it. You
Right.
know, if we want change in the world, we want to see a difference, we have to start speaking the truth and start seeking the truth.
It's a cognitive dissonance. And the question is really a good one. Why do we love the one and hate the other? I mean, you have to answer that for yourself,
Right?
right? I have a problem when I go out to dinner if somebody offers lamb chops, or a steak. I just don't go out with that person again. And I wrestle with the idea, do I have the right to say to that person when we're out to dinner, please don't order, because it's, you're not ordering a steak, you're ordering a cow. Do I have the right to say that? Do I have the right to impose and I don't want to impose my beliefs on people, but I want to speak up for what I believe in. So typically, if I go out, I'll say to people, look, I'd love to go out to dinner with you. I would prefer for this one meal that you don't order animal flesh. If you don't want to come, that's okay.
Order a salad.
Order a salad, order soup, order pasta, whatever. Stop it. You don't need to have killer lamb in order to satisfy your hunger. Anyway, I hope your listeners don't get mad at me for saying this.
No, and I feel the same way, right? We don't want to push our beliefs onto anybody and the listeners out there. But if you want to sit and spend time with me, understand that this is how I feel. Have some compassion for my feelings as
Right.
well.
And if you are concerned with animal rights, you got to extend it, right? It can't just be
Absolutely.
limited to your household.
Absolutely.
But people don't want to hear that, though. Anyway.
Reverend, you work with veterans and canine grief, coping during the holidays. Can we talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, we're just starting to do that. That's a new program. Well, we have a couple of partnerships that we think are going to work because we're adding a service to them. But when a first responder or a veteran loses his service dog, that's the same as, but very different from any one of us losing our beloved dog. Because I'm sorry, let me turn that off. When if we lose a dog, or say we can,
That's why we do live shows, because life happens.
I put that on silent. We can still go to the supermarket, we have lost a beloved animal companion. But a veteran who has suffered post-traumatic stress or some other issue, they rely on their dog to, say, wake them from a sound sleep when it looks like they're descending into a panic attack, or will tap them when they're sinking into a depression, or will ease their anxiety. So that's their lifeline. So we're learning to feel our way through this. So we're hoping that these partnerships will work out, because while the grief in many ways is the same, the nature of the relationship is sufficiently different that we have to get more finely tuned to this. So it's new for us, but we think it'll work.
Well, and that's another thing we don't talk about, right? Is the loss of service dogs.
Exactly.
How many service dogs have we actually lost? We don't hear about those stories. No. And I feel that they're deeply important as well. We need to get those stories out, that these service dogs made a difference.
They made a huge difference.
A lot of service dogs are used with mental health, anxiety, and social connection, and that we don't talk about those stories. We don't get those dog stories out there. There's also cats that people are using now for service animals that we're not speaking about. There's a lot of things we're not talking about that we need to start talking about.
I think we are. Shows like this, open the door. They raise questions. They provide a forum for discussion. They don't give answers, but at least give us something to think about and a direction to go in.
Absolutely. We have a question that came in, and it says, what message of comfort and hope would you like to leave with those struggling to heal and losing their pets in the middle of life upheavals?
Middle of
life
upheavals?
Yeah.
Oh, what words of comfort? My job really is to help the person as a companion, as a guide, to find their own words of comfort. I wouldn't presume to provide words of comfort, because there will be saccharine and they will not come from the person who most needs it, which is the griever. So my work is to help them find that place or those words or that language within themselves that they can go to for comfort and solace. There are some things we can talk about. We can talk about ritual. We can talk about ceremony. We can move off of guilt, move from guilt to maybe regret. We can kind of ease their conscience with them, but they find their own way. It's their path. It's their grief. It's their journey. And if we can be of help in their finding their own solace and comfort, they also come with belief systems. Some people have strong faith, other people don't. So I would say our work is to help the person discover their own words of comfort and solace in life's upheavals.
And Reverend, how do people become animal chaplains?
Right. There are maybe 2 or 3, maybe there are a dozen animal chaplains in the entire country. And there are some organizations, I think not too many though, that offer what they call pet chaplaincy. But this, I guess you just have to do some research. I mean, the Emerson Theological Institute in California is probably the leader in training animal chaplains, and it's like a year-long process of very intense, very deep studying, whether it's biblical figures or figures from the Quran or figures from the Torah or ritual ceremony services. So you have to commit to it. And there are many forms that animal chaplaincy takes. Some work in shelters, some work in pet control, animal control, to provide a humane touch to that activity. I happen to work as a grief counselor, grief therapist. That's the work I do as an animal chaplain. So you have to find the right institute or theological school that offers this, and be sure you look at it carefully and closely. You don't want someone to be churning out certifications that have no value.
And Reverend, what is your mission for Animal Talks, and what would you like to see happen with it?
I'm very happy with the work that we're doing. I think we're now training people, which is an important part of our vision and mission. We're helping people individually. I would like us to be better funded because we're perpetually broke as a nonprofit. We have an international reach. I would like to continue to grow our services, make them more available, make people more aware of them, increase the number of healing circles that we have on a monthly basis. I think just doing more of the same, but more of it, I guess.
About healing circles, I want to talk about those before we wrap up. Can you tell us a little bit about what healing circles are?
For the longest, they began physically and locally in a faith-based organizations, a particular church that had a wonderful space. And once a month before COVID, we would have a healing circle. And sometimes 2 people would show up. Sometimes nobody showed up. Sometimes 15 people showed up. And we would talk about our pets. We would have a kind of moment of silence or stillness, or we would exchange ideas. It was really very special because no one was leading anything. People just was there. Then when COVID hit, we suspended it, and then we moved it to Zoom. Then we had it monthly on Zoom. And then in the last month or 2, we've stopped doing that because we started to work on the class that we're teaching and this new connection with veterans and their service dogs. And that was taking up still takes up a lot of time and energy. So we just got a note yesterday from a therapist in Australia who asked if she could come and sit in on a healing circle because she wants to bring that information to her work as a therapist. So that got us thinking just yesterday, strangely enough, about recreating the circles again. So that's a work in progress. We'll see. If anybody wants to participate and is eager to join that circle, they should let me know through you or let me know directly.
And everyone can reach out to you through your email, your
I
website,
welcome
and
it.
that
I
as well.
welcome it. Yeah, I'm a great lover of people making connections. So I was happy to do that.
Reverend, final words before we wrap up.
Final words. Life is beautiful. People have said that before. It's worth living. People have said that before. Be patient with yourself. Know that animal love is a divine gift. It's something that you're being given temporarily. It will be taken from you or moved away from you. The pain that you feel, the grief that you feel, is just simply the sign of the love that you experience. So if you say to yourself, how long will I feel this grief? The answer is, how deeply did you love? How long will you feel the love? If the love will be with you forever in one form or another, so will the grief. But they will commingle, and you will remember those days with more joy and love in your heart than you do now with grief and pain. So be it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you, Reverend Kelly, for pouring truth so gently into our cups today. You reminded us that grieving a beloved animal is not weakness, it is proof of profound love. The stories shared at this table have shown us how every paw print, feather, or whisker touches a soul and shapes who we become. As we close this afternoon's tea time, may we hold this message close. Love life, love lives on. Healing begins when we allow our hearts to feel fully and honored the companions who blessed our lives. To every viewer holding grief right now, you are not alone. Your love matters, your loss matters, and your story matters. Until the next cup shared, keep planting seeds of kindness, compassion, and remembrance. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. with the second tea time story on grief of a lost loved one.